Go for it!
Over the event details on how we're going to acquire a majority of these characters. There's still some things that are unknown, like where a lot of the souls are going to be and where Shredder is going to be acquired. But this does make one of the best times to start playing Raid Shadow Legends. If you've not done so already, click the link in the description, because if you log in for 7 days, you'll get Michelangelo. You'll start off with Corrado Fox Hunter, who's a legendary, Ugo at level 10, Fane at level 20, Deacon Armstrong, who is over the top good, at level 40, and then most importantly, in the first 24 hours, use the promo code Monkey King to get the legendary Sun Wukong, and that's probably where I put most of my resources to start the game. So, Raid Shadow Legends is doing promotional with Paramount to do Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. We've got April O'Neil, Michelangelo, Donatello, Leonardo, Raphael, Shredder. We're gonna go over how to get these 5. I strongly suspect that Shredder, who looks over the top good, is gonna be like the Queen of Hearts in this event, where it'll probably be some sort of leaderboard that you have to place first place to get him. And then that becomes a function of who has the most resources saved, or just whoever wants to spend the most on shards. Daily login, Michelangelo, which is running right now. So if you start playing Raid Shadow Legends now, you'll get Michelangelo by logging in for 7 days. And so there is a 7-day login calendar right here. If you go for 14 days, then you start getting the red stars. And then phase 2, which extends another 14 days. Well, you have to do these activities on every day, but essentially you could finish the calendar in 28 days. Now, this is all going to be running for a little while now. I think it goes through November 13th. So there's a lot of time in here, but I'm expecting this to, expend a lot of resources in my account. And I am super excited to get these 4 together. And we're going to go over the kits because they do so many really cool things. The one thing that is kind of controversial about them is that they got split into various factions, Lizardman, Skinwalkers, Shadowkin, and also a Barbarian. And I think there's a very specific reason why they did that way. Not for lore and logic, because it doesn't make sense logically. But I think they didn't want to put them all in Lizardman solely because of the faction guardian, right? If we look at like this right here, Teox, the faction guardian for Lizardman, I think this would just break faction wars if they were all the same faction. Everybody that gets a majority of them can just run through the entire faction for now. So I think that they made that decision to put them in different factions solely for gameplay reasons, not necessarily for logic whatsoever. Shredder event dungeon is running right now. It's very hard. We're gonna go over Shredder's kit. The Chronophage set of gear did not really do anything for me. There's new relics, yeah, that's great. And then Donatello Fragment Summon event is running right now. We're gonna go over the calendar for that as well. Right now, Ice Golem and Dungeon Divers are currently running, and as I am recording, I'm running them in the background. I'm actually doing my Ice Golem. I don't have a fast team, and I'm doing it as we speak, right? I've already ran 23. I need to get a faster team. That's actually one of the slower. I don't like the Ice Golem that much. So
I don't like sand. It's coarse and rough and irritating, and it gets everywhere.
Where do we start? We have so much to cover. I think what I want to do, oh boy, we got that. We don't want that again. We've already saw that. You don't need to see explosions twice. Let's go in game and take a look at Michelangelo. And then we will look at the 4 turtles. And then, actually I changed mine. What we're going to do is we're going to talk about where we're going to get them. Michelangelo, log in for 7 days. We talk about that. Donatello, which will be the fragment. So you get 100 fragments and you get them. We're going to go over that after we go over this list. Swordsmaster Path event from October 7th through 10th. So this is like a hero's path or whatever, where you can go left, right, down the middle, all these different directions, get keys, so on. Collect hero coins and blaze your way through branching paths to unlock Leonardo and his 5-star perfect soul. So we know where the soul for Michelangelo is going to be, where the soul is going to be for Leonardo. No mention of Donatello. And then we've got the Hothead Deck of Fate, which is my least favorite. Through dungeons and tasks through the 13th through the 16th, earn fate points, flip cards, and grab 100 champion fragment summons to summon the relentless Raphael. Again, no mention of the souls. Then we got April, Ace Reporter Titan event. And so Titan event is going to run from the 6th through the 23rd. There should be some overlap from the way I see it, possibly with this right here. No, it looks like it's gonna be at a different time. This is a long event, end of August all through September through October. We're gonna have some time. Hopefully, I'm gonna have enough for sports. I actually kind of like that they're split up. Now, April looks like she's gonna be bonkers in Arena. This is gonna be Arena champion, and I think if you're hyper into Arena, that's where it's gonna be at. So that is going to be a Titan event that starts on the 6th. Shredder, no mention. And like I said earlier, I think Shredder. Now, we do have the Fragment event calendar. I'm going to switch sides right here to go over this. Right now, we have Ice Golem and Dungeon Divers. Now, let me get out of the way again. Get out of the way. All right, so there's a total of 130, but here's the thing. 20 of them are going to be from leaderboards. So you really can't, I don't count them. So basically, there's 110 up for grabs. So this only leaves me possibly 2 events that I can skip. And there may be various strategies for you to do based on where your resources are. Like if you're running short on sacred shards, maybe that's where the opportunity is going to be, is in one of the champion summon events, or like the summon rush right here behind me, or the champion chase. However, I don't really count these extra 10 because that's going to be for first place. So I typically try to do all of the ones outside of the first place one. And then when I get towards the end, I may skip 1 or 2 depending on where my resources are. Like if I just don't feel like doing the 3rd Dungeon Divers. Usually Dungeon Divers or the ones that require sacred shards is where I get fatigued and don't want to do them. All right, so what else do we got? Let's go into the kits. Also worth mentioning, free green removal forever is currently running. So why don't we go in game, and we're going to take a look at Michelangelo first. Cowabunga! We're going to go just right into the index, and he is a Banner Lord, and it looks like that's going to be an interesting character. They do seem to work the best when they're the 4 together, because all 4 of them have the same passive, and the passive where they have an assist. Basically, they all come in and assist. So this is going to be the same on all of them. Whenever Leonardo, Donatello, Michelangelo, or Raphael attacks, this champion joins in the attack. All of them do that. All 4 of the turtles, right? Active effect places a shield buff equal to 300% of this champion's attack on this champion for 1 turn whenever they receive a hit. So he's going to be kind of like the tankier one, if you will, in some ways. Has a 15% chance to evade enemy skill at all of the company effects if this champion is under a taunt buff. It goes up to a 30% evade, which I think is a very powerful mechanic in all hero collectors. Evasion, sidesteps everything. It just makes like the total effective like HP of a character go through the roof if you want to add HP plus defense, and then you manage in the evasion. It just, Loki's that way too. So interesting, right? Let's go into a 3 right here. Attack all enemies. Now keep in mind the other 3 are going to go in also. 75% chance of placing a decreased attack buff and a leech debuff for 2 turns. Will ignore 25% of each target's resistance if the attack is critical. So you're going to want to have 100% critical on this guy. Places taunt buff on this champion for 2 turns. Damage based on attack. Okay, cool. You're going to have to do some accuracy if we want this stuff to land. All right. Express delivery. Attack one enemy before attacking, a 75% chance of placing a decreased defense buff on the target for 2 turns, which is just going to ramp up the damage. 75% chance of placing stun debuff for 1 turn. Will ignore 25% of the target's resistance if the attack is critical. So again, You don't want to have 100% critical on this guy for sure. Then applies debuff spread effect, taking all debuffs from the target and placing in all enemies. Will ignore 25% of each target's resistance of the if the initial attack was critical. Damage based on attack. So there you go. That should be an interesting. It's interesting. I like it. I like it. I like it. I like it. And this is going to be the free login champion, right? Attack enemy 2 times. Either hit was critical. Place 50% increase attack buff on the champion for 2 turns. Increase attack. This one will get knocked down to a 3-turn cooldown, and this one will be 4-turn cooldown. Also, this should make, Fire Knight a lot easier for sure, is what I'm hoping, is that if you're struggling in Fire Knight like I am, this should make it a little bit easier. Now, let's go to Donatello, and Donatello is what? Actually Lizard, which I thought they all would have been Lizard, and this is going to be the Fragment event that's going right now. Which that's the one we went over the calendar. It's the first of the series of all these event. Lizardman. Now he has a interesting kind of like Godseeker, Freya. I don't know, the Norse lady. I've got her. I like her a lot. Sis thing, like always. Then active effect. Whenever an ally is about to receive a fatal hit, his champion prevents that ally's death and keeps him alive with 1 HP. So this is actually better than Godseeker. I thought this was similar to Godseeker, but Godseeker actually places a revive once, which, 2 things, if the character that this happens to has like a block buff on them, then it won't trigger. And also if someone's got like an anti-revive mechanic, like, blocks revive, this is not revive. And also they're able to keep their turn meter where it's at, and their HP is going to be equalized across the team. 4-turn cooldown. Now, this is probably the weak spot on the entire team. From the way I see it, is that there's no revive all or something like that. I think that they're going to have to run the 4-piece with a reviver, because this is just a 4-turn passive revive. Now, some of this stuff looks bonkers right here. This is a support champion. I'm very sure this character is going to get used in a lot of different places solely because of this. Decrease the cooldown of all ally skills except this champion for 2 turns. Yeah, this is going to get used. This skill's cooldown cannot be decreased by other cooldown decreasing effects. Okay. Places an increased speed. Buff allies for 2 turns. There you go. I mean, this is going to be very good. 4-turn cooldown right there. And then this is the A3 cleanser. Remove all debuffs from all allies. That's amazing. And then we got heal buff and a strengthen buff on allies for 2 turns. Also fills the turn meters on all allies by 20%, continuous heal and strengthen. So we've got speed up, team cleanse, all debuffs, and heal and strengthen. This is great. Like I said, other than like a team revive, it has a kind of like a incidental passive revive. This is very powerful. As a plug and play character, heals all allies for 5% of the champion makes AP, instantly activates 1 random continuous heal buff on all allies. Okay, fantastic. Now let's go. What do we got next? Let's go to the Shadowkin and look at Leo. We're not going to look at Shredder now. We'll talk about Shredder in a minute, because I think Shredder is probably gonna be the best character in the game. No. Best character out of this series.
No. Well, yes.
Best character of the game? No. We don't want to go that far. Shredder looks bonkers. Absolutely looks bonkers as a plug and play. Holy moly. Leonardo places Stone Skin buff on this champion for 1 turn. Each time the champion HP drops below 50%, occurs once per skill. He might have Stone Skin on him like a lot, especially if you can heal him back up. There's that relic, that golden elixir or whatever it is, where when you drop below 50%, you get a heal. Okay, I think that's very powerful. Very, very, very powerful. He's gonna be a turtle. And then this is crazy right here. Attack all enemies. Damage inflicted by this skill increases by 5% for each buff on all allies and all enemies. Okay. Removes all buffs from all enemies if this attack kills an enemy. Effect cannot be resisted. Now, this is going to be like a unity skill where this will pop off all the time down here. Look at this. Look at this last one. This is going to give us the incentive to get all 4 because this ability will pop off all the time if you're running, all 4 of them. I just want to skip to that because that's the most important part of this. Activates this skill whenever an ally's HP drops below 50%. Occurs once per skill. If there are multiple champions of this team, one skill, only one will activate. This could be going off all the time. If you can get them going up above and below the 50% threshold when you're running all 4, you've got a secondary one. Ignore 15% of the target's defense per each one of the turtles. Does not count this champion. Turtle allies increases the damage dealt by this skill in proportion to this champion's missing HP.
Yes! That's awesome!
Okay. I think this is great. Look at all these buffs. This is going to be the buffer right here. Place increased defense buff on allies for 2 turns. Ally protection buff on allies except for this champion for 2 turns. Also plays unkillable buff and counterattack buff for champion for 2 turns. Feel like when I go through this, all we're missing is like a team revive. So there's a lot of ways of doing that, I suppose. And then New York Slice, attack one enemy 2 times with counterattacking. We'll repeat this attack against a random enemy. We'll ignore 3% of the target's defense for each champion. Each buff on this champion up to 15%. Fantastic. Now we're going to go to Raphael, which is a barbarian, and take a look at that. Raphael, where are you? We got to look them all up. And then we will look at April, and then we'll look at Shredder last. Raphael, I can't see it. Raph, okay. All right, so we got an attack champion here. We got the assist mechanic that they all have. Places Berserk debuff on this champion for 1 turn when any champion dies. So Berserk is taking 50% more damage while also having the ability to do 50% more damage. So it's kind of, like he's going crazy. And he's just going wild, right? That's the idea of Berserk. Has a 20% chance of granting an extra turn when attacking under a Berserk debuff placed by this champion. There's going to be more ways of getting Berserk. Attacks 3 times. Each hit will ignore 20% of the target's defense. Place Perfect Veil and Unkillable buff on this champion for 2 turns. If the target is killed, if the target survives, place Berserk debuff on the champion for 2 turns instead. The buff cannot be resisted or blocked. Fantastic. We'll ignore attacks all enemies. We'll ignore shield and block damage buff if attacking under a Berserk debuff placed by this champion. So there's 2 ways of getting Berserk, here or here in the passive. If this champion is not under Berserk debuff placed by themselves, the damage inflicted against enemies under shield buff is increased by 10%. Each critical hit fails this champion turn meter by 10%, and then places a block revive debuff if the target is killed. Each critical hit fills this champion meter by 10%. So I think this is also an opportunity to not build out accuracy, right, on this guy, which I think is fantastic. So, how are we going to get all 4? We'll re-review that, right? Because that was based off of this Reddit post right here. We're going to get Michelangelo. Right now, we're going to be working on Donatello. Then we're going to have a Swordsmaster Path. And then we're going to have a Hothead Deck of Fate. And so this could be wrapping up that we have all 4 potentially by October 16th. So that is a couple months out. Fantastic. Now we're going to go over April. April is a Sacred Order? Yeah. And this looks like she's got like an anti-mythical mechanics, anti-turn meter. This looks like very much like an arena champion. I could see people, making her super fast and having insane high accuracy. However, it feels like this is just going to push people back into the stone skin meta passively, right? Whenever an enemy has their skill. Okay, so this is confusing. I'm just going to get to it. Decreases all turn meter on enemies by 10% if any of this stuff happens above. And it's a ton of factors. Whenever this happens on a single turn, decreases all enemies' turn meter by 10%. Again, stone skin will kind of sidestep that, right? Occurs once per skill. If there are multiple champions in the team with the skill, only one will activate. So any of those things happen, which these things happen all the time. Gonna knock down turn meter on the opposing team by 10%. Then this right here is on a 2-turn cooldown. Whenever enemy remove, transfer, decrease the duration of any buff to 0. Decrease the turn meters of all enemies by 25%. Okay, again, stone skin is probably the answer to that. This is a cantrip right here. Extra turn. Place a 50% increased accuracy buff on all allies for 2 turns. Also decreases the turn meters on all enemies by 20%. So again, you know what? There's the whole stone skin thing is kind of going to not allow that to happen. This is crazy though right here, because this will proc passively. So, and this essentially has a 3-turn cooldown, but because this is a cantrip, makes this like a 2.5 turn cooldown. Has a chance, it's going to ramp up to 100% chance of stealing all buffs from the target. Also, a 75% chance of stealing 100% of the target's turn meter. Then has a place of placing nullify and seal debuff on the target for 2 turns. Not going to go into those, but that's very damaging. You don't want that to happen. But this is the part that makes me think that it's like anti-mythical. And this is 25% chance, but it's going to ramp up to a 50% chance of activating this ability anytime an enemy gets an extra turn or extra turn or instant turn effect. So that's mythicals. If there are multiple champions in the skill, only one will activate. So yeah, this is kind of like a very, very much anti-mythical. Now this basic attack is like, holy moly, holy moly,
Holy moly.
holy moly, negative effects. Yeah, so we're kind of kidding around about this. This is going to be like a 400 speed champion with 700 accuracy to make it work. I mean, who knows, right? Attack an enemy, 50% chance. That's going to ramp up to 75%. Stun, freeze, sleep, provoke, fear, true fear, or petrification target, or petrification on the target for 1 turn. Oh, holy RNG, right? Then places perfect veil on the champion for 2 turns. Interesting. This is highly interesting to me right here. We'll have to see. And this looks like this is going to be from a Titan event. Now, Shredder, no idea. I fully expect Shredder to be leaderboard auction. Top of the leaderboard, right? This is going to be the Odin, the Queen of Hearts, right? It's the event boss dungeon. This is crazy right here. Passively decreases all incoming damage by 30%. That's really good right there. That's just really good. This damage is split equally among all allies except this champion. Increases the champion's damage dealt by 15% for each dead ally. Boy, the vent dungeon is going to be monsters. I just know the vent dungeons can be so challenging. Actively, so this is going to be on a, how many turns? It can only happen once per turn. Whenever this champion loses 20% of their max HP in one attack, has a 100% chance to evade the next attack. This event dungeon is not going to be fun. I mean, if you're not like deleting him in one shot, this is not going to be fun. When this guaranteed evade affects, then he goes under perfect veil for 2 turns and a 50% chance placing true fear debuff on all enemies for 1 turn. Cannot be resisted. No need for accuracy. Attack all enemies. For attacking, steal all buffs from a single target enemy. This effect cannot be resisted. Doesn't need accuracy, but you can ramp the damage on this guy all the way up. If they're under veil or perfect veil, fills the champion's turn meter by 15% for each buff stolen. Will ignore 15% of the enemy's defense. Wow. Which is, you know, as far as damage goes, you know, you get 100% crit chance, 100%, and as high crit damage as possible. But then the more enemy defense that you can get through, that is, you know, that is where the real damage starts to happen. Like, that's very important, is sidestepping and ignoring damage. Especially with, that's why certain gear sets are better than others. You know, you start getting into like the savage and lethal and those ones. You know what I mean? Then there's the 9-piece ones as well as shield and block damage buffs. Champions under veil or perfect veil ignore 30% of the defense instead. It's bonkers. Attack all enemies 2 times. This is crazy. This is crazy. 2 AoEs. Each critical hit destroys an enemy's defense, so it can't be regenerated. Up to 30%. Each critical hit also increases the champion's max HP up to 30%. A 75% chance of placing leech debuff, but it won't get resisted. So you can completely ignore accuracy on this character. Absolutely don't need accuracy to all this stuff. Attack enemy 3 times. Second and third hits of this skill will ignore 5 and 10% of the target defense respectively. The second and third hits of this skill will deal 10% and 20% more crit damage respectively. Damage is based on HP. For me, I really want to get the 4 turtles for reasons. The other thing too is, you know, these collab promos. I'm pretty sure, I mean, I haven't read this officially, but they typically never come back. The characters are never back. And if you look at like the shards, like here it says like, the following champions cannot be summoned, right? And there they are. The following champions cannot be summoned from any shard. And, you know, this is where you're going to see like the He-Man and Skeletor and these guys, right? I suspect, I mean, we'll have to see, but I suspect that it stays that way. I do. I'm just, we'll see. We'll see if they get put in this pool permanently, right? Like some of the other collab type characters. So I don't want to mess around with this. I want to make full advantage of this as much as possible. I fully expect to get 4 of them. I may run into some trouble here, you know, on between the Swordmaster path, the path, and the Deck of Fate. Hopefully I'll be fine on getting those, but I'm hoping to get all 4 turtles and April, and then Shredder. We'll just see. I fully expect it. So let's get, thank you so much for being here. I'm going to run the promo one more time here. If you want to get Michelangelo, Corrado, Ugo, Fane, Deacon, and use the promo code Monkey King to get Sun Wukong, we're talking 3 legendaries and 3 epics right out of the gate. One of the best times to start playing Raid Shadow Legends is right now. Bye.